Hi, I'm Ross Jacobs and welcome to A Horse of Thought Part 3. Today I want to talk about a couple of aspects relating to a horse's thought which I believe are really important before we proceed on to talking about other principles. The first one I want to talk about is the idea that a horse can look at something. It doesn't mean he's actually lost focus on us. It doesn't mean he's mentally left us. And sometimes that's not always easy to tell when a horse is looking or when he's leaving. So the second thing I want to talk about is the idea that everything we ask a horse to do should entail a change of thought. A horse is always trying to do something. He's thinking about something and he's always trying to make that work out for him. When we ask him to do something else, we're always trying to get him to change his thought from the thing he is thinking about to the thing we want him to think about so he can do what we're asking. How do you know if you've got to change a thought or that you've just done enough, put enough pressure on a horse, put him in a situation where you got him to do what you wanted him to do, and he didn't necessarily change his thought? This is a really hard thing to know, and a lot of people find it difficult to get their head around this idea. So I'm going to hopefully clear that up for you today, and we'll get started. This is Chops, a little 14-hand quarter horse pony. And you'll notice that when she takes a little interest in something off to her left, it only requires me to step to my left to draw her thought back to me. And again, when she takes a little stronger interest, it also almost takes nothing. And that's because she never left me, she just was looking. She didn't feel worried when I drew her thought back to me. A horse needs to look. He needs to be aware of everything that's in his surrounds. He's genetically wired that way to need to look. So there's nothing wrong when he does. And just because he looked doesn't mean he's disconnected from you. He could still be thinking about you while he's looking at something else. But you can test if a horse is just looking or is leaving by asking him to do something. Interrupt his thought. Check to see whether he looks at you. Does he turn away from you? Has he got a relaxed posture? Does he have a resistance? Is there a delay in what he does? Now let's look at Chops when she gets a fright and her thoughts leave me. I'm no longer her primary thought. She's mentally left. She's more focused on something outside. Notice the stiffness in her posture. She doesn't turn and face me. Her body's very stiff because she's trying to line up her body to look at the thing that scared her. She's been very polite, but she left me for a moment. A little bit at a time, she's gradually coming back to me. As you can see, she looked here, then she got focused again on the thing that was outside. But she's doing better. You'll notice here she gets a little bend in her body, which suggests to me that her thoughts are coming back to me in a stronger way. So when a horse mentally leaves us, we're no longer their primary thought, they're thinking elsewhere. You can find this out by asking them to do something and check for signs of resistance or fixed stare, or it could be that they're late in doing something, or it could be that they won't look at you. But keep in mind, all horses are different, so the signs you see in one horse may not be the same signs you see in another horse. So now let's look at the question of how can you be sure you get a change of thought. Here I've asked Chops to politely come forward off a feel on the rope, but she's resistant. She's leaning against my hand, as you can see from this photo. So she did eventually come forward, but I wasn't satisfied. I know I didn't get a change of thought. I just did enough to encourage her feet to move. So she was obedient, but she didn't change her thought. So I asked again. It was a little better that time. But now I know it can be better, so I'll ask again. Closer, but not quite what I want. She's still holding back. There's still a little argument in her about thinking that the feel of that rope says she could come forward without any trouble in her. Now that's what I was looking for. Now that I've confirmed that Chops has had a change of thought, we can move on to the next task. Now let's look at an example from when I rode a horse at a recent clinic. I was asking Cozzy to soften to the reins in his halt. You can see the first time he was quite bracy, so I asked him again to see if I got a change of thought. It was a little better, but still quite a bit of resistance. He still wasn't thinking back when I picked up the reins, so I asked one more time, right here, and you'll see how he had a change of thought not to lean on the reins. Without a change of thought, a horse has learned nothing. So you should always confirm that when you ask something of your horse, he actually changed his thought before you move on to the next thing or ask for something new. Well, that was it. I hope it was clear to you that both checking to see whether a horse has left or is just looking, and checking to see whether they actually had a change of thought are the same things. You're always checking to see whether the horse is connected to you. So when you find there's either resistance or they seem interested in something else, ask a little. And if they come back and they're right there and it weighs nothing and causes them no emotional trouble, then everything is fine. But if there is trouble in it, if there is resistance, if there is lateness, or the horse doesn't come back, then you know that there is trouble there that you need to address and you didn't get the change of thought. Okay, I'll see you next time.